All right, we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready when you are. And you're running the show, so I'm following your lead.
Hell yeah, I'm running the fucking show. Welcome back to the Club F Radio podcast, your number one source for Harry Potter news and rumors. I'm your host, Super64, and today I'm joined, as always, by Jackbox Games. How are you today, Jack?
Oh, I'm great! I heard some fucked up shit about J.K. Rowling this weekend.
Did you? Okay, great.
Let me tell you, she thinks she completely understands the trans.
Wow. All right, well, today, Jeff, we're going to be talking about arcades.
J.K. Rowling has never stepped foot in an arcade.
You don't know that.
I know that she doesn't like video games.
Yeah, well, fuck her.
Yeah, that's always something that's... Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of problems to have with her right now. I love her writing, but I have always been put off by some of her quotes about how, like... She's just one of those generic kids who play video games don't experience the magic of imagination. It's like, all right, okay, boomer, whatever.
Well, I've got a good approach to this. Just don't read.
Shut the fuck up.
That's always worked for me.
All right, so glad to have you guys here in Club F. I'm not sure what part of the arcade Club F is, because in the videos,
I was about to ask.
In the videos, it's that section off to the side of the main room where the couch is. But the thing is, this is something I may share with you. This would be the right podcast to do it, but all of the assets featuring the arcade itself are filmed in a game called hold on, I've got it installed. It's
Can't think of what it is either, because I started to play it one day.
New Retro Arcade Neon. And what it is it's essentially just a toy. It's like a 3D game environment that you can walk around in, and the controls suck. Like, for some reason, walking around in it is a real pain in the ass. But it's just a game arcade. Like, it's a room in a first-person movement engine. But it's got built-in emulators, so you can plug in like whatever games you want into these arcade machines. And whenever I first made our assets, I made it using the demo arcade. But when you buy it, you have two. You have that demo arcade, and then you have a much bigger one. And there are things I like about both of them. Like the demo arcade has that little sitting area off to the side with the couch that you have seen in so many of our different intros and stuff like that. But the bigger arcade actually has a separate back room that has like a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis and like a pool table and shit like that. So like, to me, that's the literal Club F in the arcade, unless it's the bar, because the bigger arcade in the game has an actual fucking bar in it. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Club F isn't a physical place. The arcade isn't real anyway. It's some eldritch horror SCP dimension. So,
Yes.
But thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Oh my god.
Sorry, you just left it open for a perfect William response. Okay, well, let's just dive into this arcade shit. Do you want to start since we have a list? Or okay,
I'll start us off. Okay, so we talked about a couple of different possible topics today, and it seemed like as good of a time as any to talk about why so much of our branding is based around arcades. If you've been a fan of ours for a long time, you know that our original branding was based around Mario Paint. And that was something that I had strong memories for, but Chase didn't necessarily. Because,
no, I did. I
okay.
did. I just wanted to move away from it because it wasn't like our own.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Don't get me wrong. I completely agree. But the early shit was just fucking, like, I drew the logo in Mario Paint. I kind of thought it was tongue-in-cheek funny in a sort of we're trying but not really way. And as we shifted away and started coming up with our own branding, all I could think of was coin op. Like coin op arcades. And I was like, maybe that's a pun I can like make a bridge with and figure something out, because I have always loved arcades. I think me and Chase and just about every best friend I've ever had has always just been like, man, I wish arcades were still popular over in America. I wish they were nearly as big as they've been in Japan all this time. And so we're digging into that today. We've got a couple of different main points that we want to hit, but as always, this is a very casual podcast, so we'll probably bounce around like a couple of fucking idiots. And I guess where I would probably want to try to start is talk about our first memories of ever even being in an arcade. Chase, do you want to jump that off?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know if it would be Chuck E. Cheese, but there's a good fucking chance that it's Chuck E. Cheese because, you know, we grew up in the South and like you'd run up on an arcade every now and then, like just some random ass owned arcade. Like in my hometown, we had a skating ring and there was a big arcade in there. Well, I say big. It was decently sized. That's where I got into stuff like Mortal Kombat and basically all the racing games and stuff like that. It's the only place in my hometown I had to play, whereas there was no Chuck E. Cheese in my hometown.
Right.
But like I was getting at to begin with, at a younger age than skating, I probably had gone to a Chuck E. Cheese. You know, I imagine most of our friends had probably been to a Chuck E. Cheese first. And that's not... I don't know that I'd call that an arcade. Would you?
It really depends because I know you and I have both gone back and forth about how we felt about ticket machines because, you know, for a long time I didn't like ticket machines. I didn't feel like they were real arcade games. But when we've gone to Dave & Buster's since then, the ticket machines have been where our friends typically enjoy themselves the most. So it really depends on how hard you're gatekeeping what is and is not an arcade machine.
Yeah. I guess that's fair.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that my first experience with an arcade was a Chuck E. Cheese. Got some interaction in the chat. Remember, as always, we have switched to doing our podcast free on Discord, so if you want to listen to these live as they're being recorded, you should need to swing by and get that roll and welcome rules. Artemis says, wait, y'all go to Dave & Buster's? Not on the regular, but...
yeah, not on the regular.
Yeah.
Until recently, the closest one to us was like... I don't know, 2-3 hours away at least. Maybe even further. I don't even know the closest one because there was one in Tennessee and it got like flooded. And I want to say the other closest one was like Georgia or something. And then we got one about an hour from where I live. And we went there, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Or so. We went there for one of our friends' bachelor parties that we sort of just capped off the night with it because we had already done some other stuff. And we just went to Dave & Buster's and had fun. Usually Dave & Buster's kind of sucks. They've got bullshit like Fruit Ninja. You know, like it's weird seeing a phone app in a fucking arcade. Like that doesn't strike me as an arcade game. Like I'm going in there to play Time Cop and shit like that, not Fruit Ninja. Like that's so weird to me.
Yeah, it really is strange. To also respond to some impressions, Artemis says, imagine seeing two 30-year-old men walking into Dave & Buster's and dominating all the machines. Your experiences with Dave & Buster's must be different than ours because it's largely adults in the ones that we've visited.
Yeah, I mean, like if you haven't been to one, I could see how you might have, you know, a misconception of it. But like Dave & Buster's is just Chuck E. Cheese with beer.
Yeah.
For the most part, except for the shitty ones that have terrible games. But the one we went to actually had a good selection. Like they had a Halo machine. They had, I said Time Cop. I meant to say Time Crisis. I'm pretty sure they had Time Crisis. They had the typical basketball machines, your skeet ball, you know, all that shit for tickets. But like they had some actual fun games too.
I am trying to find one of the earliest arcade machines that really made an impression on me. I can't find it because I'm pretty sure I used to have a different YouTube account, and that's the one that I had it saved to as a favorite. But when I found it, I saved it because I will never again be able to find what you parse together to find this machine. But it was a futuristic, like, racing game that was like linear. Like you were racing, but you weren't really. Like you were just, it wasn't F-Zero. But it was vector graphics. Like it was really old. It looked like Star Fox 1 on the Super Nintendo. And as you took damage, your ship would like turn into like wireframe. It was kind of, I don't know. I just think so much about arcades and stuff like that has shaped my aesthetic, because what I'm talking about right now, a futuristic vector graphics game, that's retrofuturism if I've ever fucking heard it. That's like the 90s vision of what the future is supposed to look like. Like everything's supposed to be angular and one of 5 colors. but I really liked that game, and it was hard and kind of like eerie in a way. And I'm pretty sure that the first Chuck E. Cheese I went to had a big ass one of those in there, and it was an intimidating motherfucking machine.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, all I can really remember about my visits to Chuck E. Cheese was like, you know, that's when you're really young. So like you typically play in like the ball pit or like the like actual playgroundy type shit rather than the ticket machines, or at least I would.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I look at Chuck E. Cheese as more of just a birthday place than an actual arcade.
Yeah. And I hear that. I think that it just really depends on like the collection of shit that they had at your particular one. Like, for example, I'm remembering a game that's probably my second standout initial experience with arcade machines. I don't know if it was at Kids Quest or Chuck E. Cheese. And if you listen to our last podcast on nostalgia, you may have heard me talk about Kids Quest. My mother used to gamble, and at the casinos that she went to, there was a daycare for the children of gamblers. And it sounds so much more toxic than it was. It was actually really cool, because it was like a long-term McDonald's play place, essentially, with no parents. And I'm pretty sure I played Prop Cycle there. Chase, have you ever heard of Prop Cycle?
I can't say that I have.
All right. At least I know the name of this one. Prop Cycle is a bicycle game. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about arcade machines, is that in a weird way, it's like VR before VR. Like, not necessarily like headset VR, but it's heavy equipment interactivity that there's no way you were getting at home. Like, trust me, I like traditional arcade machines as well, but the ones that I enjoyed probably the most were the ones where I was like riding on a motorcycle and leaning into turns, or like DDR where you're like trying to be actively moving and things like that. And Prop Cycle was a game in a weird like Nausicaa Valley of the Wind style like Japanese anime setting, where you have a bike that you've rigged a plane propeller to the front of. And what's funny is I already referenced Ghibli. Like, the guy from Kiki's Delivery Service has what is essentially a prop cycle. And what's hilarious about it is I don't remember that kid's name, because me and Candy just call him Fuckboy. So the little boy that's interested in Kiki and Kiki's Delivery Service had a bicycle with a plane propeller on the front. And so in Prop Cycle, the faster you do that, the more lift you have and the faster you're moving. And if you slow down, you're falling. And I love the fuck out of that game. It was a hit all the balloons, fly around game.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever seen that.
Yeah. Can you think of like standout like weird machines that anytime you see one you're just like, oh shit, I gotta play some of that?
Oh, excuse me. I don't know about weird. What really jumps out at me thinking back about arcades is mostly Mortal Kombat 2 or like Cruisin' USA.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish, but that reminded me of something.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, well, when I was aware of arcades, but I never could really go to any, Mortal Kombat 2 at the bowling alley. Oh, and Shakuris has provided some reference images, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those over so that I can put them into the actual video version of the podcast. Shakuris has provided an image of Kiki's Delivery Service, Kiki's Delivery Service, and the Prop Cycle machine. And, God, I really like that game. But what you were saying about Mortal Kombat, I don't like bowling, but I would wind up bowling. Because, you know, when you're a kid, you wind up going to kids' birthday parties, and they want to go bowling for some fucking reason. All I wanted to do was play the arcade machines, but I sucked dick at Mortal Kombat. So it was this weird like situation of I wanted to play it, but it was just a waste of my time to play it. Yeah. So I didn't really get into it as much as I think you did.
Yeah, well, like I said, the arcade that was in my hometown didn't have a whole lot. Really, they had Mortal Kombat 2, and I think it eventually got upgraded to Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate, or or whatever the fuck the 3 was called. But they had a racing game that I can't remember the name of. It was just a big red car you got in. It's probably the most generic racing game ever. It wasn't Cruising USA. It was well before like the 64 days.
You know, what's funny is you're reminding me a little bit of Outrun, but I don't know if that had a physical car to get in.
Yeah, I cannot remember the name of it. I want to say it was like Top Gear or some shit.
Maybe.
Like some generic fucking whatever racing game. But I played that. I played those two a lot. And then they had plenty of like ticket machines because, they gave away prizes and stuff. But outside of that, I didn't really have any arcades until much later in life.
Mm-hmm.
When we were like 10th grade and when we could finally drive and stuff.
Yeah, and that was a fun time for us because, as we've mentioned before, our hometown was essentially like a social island. Like, if you were going to do anything fun, you had to drive at least an hour in a given direction. And so we would very often go to a neighboring town in a neighboring state, and that had a good mall with a good arcade. But what's funny is good arcade is subjective because it was still old games in there, but it was games that like I was aware of and very rarely got the chance to play when I was growing up. And then whenever we went, I could play them whenever the fuck I wanted. So like, they've got the big ass DDR machine that's like at this point in time very active and this weird social hub of the arcade. And Crazy Taxi was a huge one for me. Like, Crazy Taxi has a lot of like musical nostalgia for me. But their Crazy Taxi machine was fucking broken. I remember because I tried playing it like once, and then every time we went after that, I didn't even fuck with it. But go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say a big one for me in that mall and that arcade was Soul Calibur 2, I think.
Yes. Yeah, they had Soul Calibur 2 there.
Yeah, I want to say it was Soul Calibur 2, and then like Gauntlet Legends. Man, I used to play that a shitload. And then I never got into DDR as much as you guys did until it came out on like consoles and stuff. Like, I'd played at people's houses, but I never really played it in the arcades.
I want to talk about Gauntlet first and then head into DDR then, since that stood out. So whenever you look at any of the assets that we make for the channel, I guess a big reason that I wanted to go with arcades, in addition to what I've already mentioned, is that I just think there's something about a co-op arcade game that, for people our age or not much younger, there's a lot of like universal iconography to it, like player 1 press start, player 2 press start, insert credit to continue, and so there have been a bunch of different iterations of our like overlay in the stream that have been inspired by multiplayer arcade games like Gauntlet and Gauntlet Legends and things like that, where it's a whole bunch of people crowded around one cabinet. Something that's really funny that I've mentioned to a couple of people is that a lot of people didn't believe me when I would bring up I think it's 6-player X-Men arcade machine. Hold on.
Oh, I just thought of another iconic one for me.
Okay.
The Simpsons beat 'em up.
Yeah.
I can't think of what it's called. It was just a Simpsons game that played like Streets of Rage or something.
The ones that stand out to me, we're going to go over all of them right now, and I've already got some people that are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Co-op beat-em-ups were a big staple of arcade games for us that really, like, one of the first things that we think of. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade games,
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, because, like, not only just the base level one, but, like, Turtles in Time and stuff like that. Yes, there we are. And then the Simpsons one, which the Simpsons one has a lot of interesting facts about it. It was developed at a point in time when they were strongly trying to hint that Marge had like rabbit ears underneath her hair, and then they wound up retconning that before they ever even delivered on it in the show. So that's the only version of The Simpsons that shows that still. When she gets electrocuted.
When she gets like electrocuted. Yeah. I remember that.
Lots of weird shit about that. I don't particularly care for the Simpsons game that much. I do like the Ninja Turtles games. I would really love to like play front to back Turtles in Time at some point. Fair says images you can hear. Big Apple, 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
And that's something else too. just stuff like that stands out to me. That's a big reason why I in our D&D game, the New York town is called Big Eagle, because I wanted to try to stick to that in some way. But then there's the X-Men machine, and if you played the X-Men arcade machine, it might have just been a 4-player one. But there was a 6-player version. I have showed a couple of people this already. I'm going to post a link to the Google results. This, to me, is just the fucking goddamn Gundam wing of arcade machines, man. Because it's so wide.
That is a big bitch.
Yeah. Okay. This was before like widescreen TVs, so I want you to take a look inside of it. That is 2 projection TVs. They're not even both side by side. One of them's in like the ceiling or the floor of it, and then it's being mirrored. So like there's one projection TV in the actual back, and then there's a mirror right next to it so that they can put the screens close enough together that it resembles a widescreen.
That's hilarious.
Yes. And like this machine right here is the Bro-Op machine. Like whenever I made the most recent version of the actual machine, it was based on this one. But I'm still not that great at drawing, so it only has 4 sticks on it. But so yeah, like this was just a delightful fucking game. Like all of the different mutants have different powers. The only thing that really weirds me out is that instead of Rogue, they have Dazzler. And I do not remember Dazzler meaning shit in the 90s arcade cartoon.
Dude, I couldn't even tell you who the fuck Dazzler is.
I'm going to tell you, Dazzler's an interesting X-Men character because she quit being a superhero to be like a pop star. Like, so I'm just still like, every time I see this machine, I'm like, why? Like, why Dazzler though? But yeah, and I haven't beaten this game either. It's really cool. It's really 90s, but sorry, I got confused by chat. It's really 90s, but all of the characters essentially work exactly the same way because like they all have like basic ass beat 'em up abilities and one super move that destroys a whole bunch of people on the screen. So it almost doesn't matter who you pick at all, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I just thought of another place that as a kid you could get lucky and them have arcade machines. And that was Pizza Hut.
Oh, dude, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, you tell your Pizza Hut story because that reminds me of a pizza place story.
There was only one Pizza Hut even remotely close to us, or to me growing up, because like I've been here a lot longer than Jesse. But I can't even remember the games they had really. Like I just remember like going in there and being like, oh yeah, Dad, can I have $1 for some tokens? You know, whatever. Go in there and play, and maybe come back with a fucking temporary tattoo that you got out of that other machine for 50 cents or you know whatever.
Hell yeah. We had a Godfather's pizza that had like 2 machines in it. I don't remember what they had. I think at one point they had like Street Fighter, which again, I sucked at fighting games, but it was really more about seeing it. Oh, and I'm pretty sure they had Rampage at one point, and I did enjoy Rampage. But
that seems like a Pizza Hut.
Yeah. It's funny you bringing up like Pizza Hut. You know those images of like buildings that clearly used to be Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
Like I'm just imagining like flying through space and be like, what's that shithole? And be like, oh, that planet used to be a Pizza Hut. Like, and that's the arcade like dimension. That's the Hidden Interiors universe. It used to be a Pizza Hut. God fucking
hell yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they do down there now. It's shaped like the building because it's got that weird shape that literally can't be anything else. So it's
can't
really
be
off.
anything else.
So, but we were talking about beat 'em ups. Like there's more that we haven't mentioned because we honestly haven't played them all. Like what's funny is there's not really a place to talk about this game in here, but it's similar to a beat 'em up in the fact that it's co-op and it's side scrolling. Chase and I didn't play Metal Slug in arcades. Like we played.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
We have the arcade where you used to live, the one that was like a retro game store in the mall, had Metal Slug. And
did they?
Yeah, I've played Metal Slug on that machine. But you and I played every single Metal Slug together on a Wii game that I rented for us for free from Movie Gallery when I was working there.
I still have it.
Yeah, because we bought it whenever the place went out of business. And that's such bullshit to me, because I remember when I was working for Corona the first time, I was like, hey, I know we're selling Metal Slug. Like, can I get some of these keys? And she was like, well, I don't know if I can give you all of them. And I was just sitting here going, damn, these motherfuckers are really selling them individually. I had all of them on one Wii disc. What is this bullshit?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they're not exactly long. Like,
they're really
you could just
not.
sit down and beat them like no time, like 30 minutes, an hour, or something like that.
I think Metal Slug, like, whenever Chase and I were developing the current overlay for the stream, the internal name for it was, I think it was like Metal Slug Mario, because I was kind of trying to combine the look of the Super Mario World overlay and the Metal Slug overlay. Shakuris asks, what was Metal Slug? Metal Slug.
There's a couple of them on Steam if you want to just go look there real quick, but we can describe it too.
Metal Slug is a side-scrolling cooperative like war platformer. Like, I'd say it probably most resembles Mega Man without a whole lot of platforming. Like, it's kind of like a bullet hell Mega Man, essentially.
And as soon as you see the like UI of Metal Slug, you're gonna be like, oh shit, yeah, that's just the stream overlay.
Yeah.
Because like it's very Metal Slug.
Yeah. Like, I had done so many different versions of the overlay that I was like, I'm getting a little bit better with GIMP now. I don't necessarily know if I want the overlay to just be arcade machine sticks at the bottom. Like, what else can we do with this? And so now it's very much ripped off Metal Slug, but it looks cool in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it. I fucking love it.
Okay, so what you've posted, Shakuris, is clearly Metal Slug, but it's like a phone game.
Yeah, I'll find you one. Hold on.
Yeah. And while he's
specifically Metal Slug 3.
Yeah. While he's looking for that, those games are like really over the top. They're meant to be funny, and that's more like it, Shakuris.
Yeah, there you go.
And we played it on Wii, so we were able to just keep continuing. And that's the thing about these games, is that I think the challenge comes from you can't get hit once, because if you get hit once, you lose a life, and if you run out of lives, you have to put more coins in the machine. So when we played, we just kind of kept fucking going. So I don't know how much fun it would be to play it on stream, but I think that runs into a bigger problem of that would also mean we'd have to play through multiple games. Like, we'd have to close one game, open another game. I don't even currently have them all, because again, Cassie was only able to get me like 3 or 4 of them, like not all of them. And but this is an excellent game with very good art. That's the point I've been trying to get to, is that I think arcades are the place where like gorgeous pixel art really reigns supreme.
I agree. I think that's where it really started, because like Metal Slug looks fantastic.
Yeah. Like, if you take a look at the first one you posted, like the backgrounds and the blood and the fact that it's still got this sort of cartoony look to it, but it's kind of fucking spooky too.
Yeah.
And they do hold up well. I agree.
Here's the best way I think I know to explain Metal Slug to someone who's never seen it or played it. Metal Slug looks like an indie dev today went really hardcore out of their way to make a pixelated game, but it looked like this back then.
Yeah. I wanted to mention DDR again, because we got into this rhythm of, it was a huge part of our ritual to go to that mall and to play DDR, and we had another acquaintance who would do that very fucking often. And in a strange way, the portion that I'm about to describe, it could probably be its own podcast, because I'm still to this day really fascinated by it. And that was like the weird like preteen scene kid cult that our friend Drew had accumulated.
Yeah, and like we're not kidding when we say Drew was good at DDR. Like Drew could play the hardest songs, turn around, face you, and play them backwards.
Yes.
and like, you know, not fail, not even come close to failing. And
Yes.
then on top of that, Drew had a friend whose name is Ike. Ike is of Asian descent, and I always heard him referred to as Ike the Super Asian. So it was kind of a play on Super Saiyan, but he was Ike the Super Asian because he was even better than Drew. Like,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he had every high score on that machine.
Yes, and so like that was a thing, and you know, every now and then, like very occasionally, I would try to play alongside Drew, and fortunately, whenever you're playing two-player DDR, you can have separate difficulties, or else it would be completely fucking pointless. But that's one of those games where there are a lot of songs that, regardless of what difficulty you're playing on, that song's gonna be fucking hard. And I miss the fuck out of DDR because I've been thinking a lot lately, especially since you've brought it up, how that has just gone the fucking wayside. Like, we had so many friends where DDR was their exercise regimen, and it's just like,
Yeah, like here lately, I've been wanting to get back into DDR. Like, I still have some soft pads. I just don't know where the fuck they are. And on top of that, I'm afraid they would rip because they're kind of fucking old now. So, you know, who knows if they're worth it. But like the other day, I got to looking up metal DDR pads just so I could have one here at the house. And holy shit, are they expensive nowadays because people don't fucking make them anymore. And the people that do are the only motherfuckers that make them. So like, they're just like, we can charge whatever we want. And they're like, I think the cheapest ones I could find that didn't have like reviews that were like, yeah, these are shit, were like $200 or $300. Like that's a lot of money for a DDR pad. But I desperately want one because, like you just said, it is damn good exercise, and I would gladly play DDR to exercise. It's just, to me, it's just Rock Band for my feet, and I fucking love Rock Band. So
there's a scene in the movie Hackers, which is like a early 90s, late 80s movie, where they go to an arcade, and it's clearly this like a highly exaggerated version of an arcade, and they play on this giant screen, and it's like this huge, like almost club scene. And obviously that's not what arcades were really like, but I've had a lot of situations that make it very easy to imagine where they were coming from. Because with the whole DDR thing, like the DDR machine was the focal point of the arcade. So whoever was playing DDR was essentially on stage. And like people flocked to Drew. They flocked to Ike. And Drew would just be fucking dripping sweat, and people would like challenge Drew. Have we Chase, have we ever talked about Next?
I don't think so.
Drew taught me about Next, and this is something that I've tried to work into like the vocabulary of what we do, but I don't really know where it would go. So if you want to play on the machine that somebody's on, you're supposed to put your token in the corner of the screen. And that's a polite way to indicate, hey, when you're done with your current round, I would like to jump in. And so like people would jump in and almost like fighting game style, essentially like challenge Drew to a fucking goddamn dance off. And they would lose. And it's so funny to see because I didn't see that very often with actual fighting games. I do remember one time seeing people like lined up to beat this guy in Tekken. Like, but he had a fucking PlayStation 2 controller plugged up to the machine and was just.
And you know those people don't fuck around.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He brought his power glove with him.
Basically.
It's so bad. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I love that environment. And there weren't an awful lot of situations where I felt embarrassed to be almost in worship of that place. There were a couple other arcades that, like, if I was ever out of town, I'd go to it. I'd be like, yeah, this shit sucks. But during that period of time, it was really good.
Yeah, and basically the only place for us to find arcades anymore, because we've already kind of mentioned that in the U.S. they're kind of dead. Like they're fucking gone outside of Dave and Buster's, like, you're not gonna find a good arcade anywhere.
Yes.
And even Dave and Buster's ain't that great. So like the real place for us to play arcade games is anime conventions. Like every anime convention will have a game room, and they'll have, you know, Xboxes, PlayStations, and shit set up. But they'll always rent a fuck ton of arcade machines. And it's probably one of our worst videos that's ever. It's performing videos. Is the last time I went to MomoCon, which was last May, because this year it got canceled because of the coronavirus. But I recorded a bunch of footage in that game room. And Jesse, if you'll link it,
I will. Yeah, there's going to be a place for you to click that. And if you're listening to this, have you heard of our YouTube channel? It's good.
yeah. But anyway, you can go watch that video, and you'll see just how fucking big MomoCon's like arcade room is. Like they have got the Gundam pods. They've got it fucking all. That place is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me too, because you were talking about those Gundam pods, like that arcades really have been the place where I see the next innovations of gaming starting to sort of like appear. Like whenever we saw those Gundam pods, or like whenever it started becoming really popular to have those like VR turret games and things like that. And that was like probably a fucking decade before we started seeing more popularized VR headsets, you know. And then like I think this was before the Kinect, but I remember playing a game that was a game where you were playing as a police officer, and it was a shooting game, like a gun con shooting game, but the machine was surrounded by motion sensors. So in order to like duck out of the way of bullets and like to reload behind shit, you had to physically move your body. And by the time I was done playing that game, my legs were goddamn sore, but I loved it. Like to this day, that was still probably my favorite arcade machine I've ever played on.
Yeah, and real quick, speaking of gun cons, there was a Linus Tech Tips video the other day that showed me these new gun cons that this dude has like kickstarted, and like it's done now. Like he's already selling them, or he's about to start selling them. The Kickstarter went well, and they work on like new TVs. They work on like HD TVs.
Wow.
And like even Linus was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like it's fucking cool that you figured out all the math to make this work on new age televisions. Like they were super impressed by it. And they're kind of expensive. I think they're over $100, but they look fantastic, and I would love to have one.
Yeah, that's incredible. God, imagine playing like Doom on your like big screen TV with a fucking new age gun con.
That would be sick.
Because like that's the thing, like I remember when we were constantly complaining about the Wii and like how shit it was. To answer questions in chat, GunCon is a gun controller, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, is that you know, arcades have so many different tangible things that are kind of magical to me, like the controllers themselves, the controllers for guns. In my mind, they're not right unless one of them is pink and one of them is blue. like
yeah, well that's one thing that somebody just linked the video. I think it was Shakuris. That's the video I'm talking about. And in that video, Linus says something along the lines of he's like, I'm sorry, man, blue's player 1, pink's player 2. Like that's just how I don't make the rules. That's just how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's what a gun con is. And like it just seems to me like arcades have so much tangible stuff. Like I love the fuck out of video games, and you know, video games can be mostly digital to where like the only thing you're touching is your controller. But when you're in an arcade, it's a physical place with physical things that connect you to that experience. And a gun con, man, like a gun that when you pull the trigger, it does that clack, like it snaps and the pieces on it move. And unless it's broken because some fucking asshole broke it, now there's only one controller. Which
happened a lot.
Yes. And so I remember when we were playing Wii, and we were constantly like, God, console sucks. Like, the gimmick could have been so cool. And I'd seen videos of people being like, now this is what the Wii should do. And they'd rigged it up to where they sat the Wiimote on top of their TV facing them, and they put the sensor bar on their glasses. And what it did was it did exactly, I don't know if you guys have seen the video essay that NoClip put out recently. That's kind of a preview or a side video about the new Prey game, but it talks about the looking glass technology and how in the game the screens change the perspective of what it's showing based on where your eyes are, so it looks like it's got actual depth. That's physically possible in the real world, and that's what these guys did with a Wii. They had the glasses rigged up with the sensor bar, so the screen changed what was being displayed where you were in relation to the TV. And so, like, that could create a situation where you're not necessarily playing VR, but you have complete freedom of movement in your room to aim. Like, that would be fucking amazing, and it would be a hell of a lot cheaper. So I have really enjoyed seeing the way that, like, arcades and, like, physical movement have played into machines as well. I don't feel like I've seen so much of that anymore. It seems like when you go to arcades now, if they've got anything cool like that, it's like a side section where it's just a literal Oculus Rift or something like that.
Yeah. I feel like generic arcades like Dave and Buster's and stuff are getting lazy these days with shit like that, and like the Fruit Ninja stuff that I was talking about, and, you know, just taking phone games and Flappy Bird. They had fucking Flappy Bird, man.
Yeah, that's real fucking weird. But yeah, those are the movement games that stand out to me, really. I know how badly you'd like to talk about fighting games, though, if you wanted to dig into that.
Yeah, I mean, we've already covered, you know, beat 'em ups, driving, shooting, and you just covered movement. So yeah, and I've talked a little bit about, you know, Mortal Kombat here and there, and Soul Calibur, whatever. I would say more recently than back then, I've become a fighting game guy. I love to watch Evo, which unfortunately got canceled this year. Not due to exactly the virus, but some fucking, like, kitty touching and bullshit like that. So we may not see Evo again for all the fuck I know, and that makes me the big sad. So anyway, recently really got into fighting games. I'm by no means, like, super good at them. I would say the only two I've ever been real good at was, and I don't mean pro level or anything like that. I just mean I could beat all my friends, like, no problem. Was probably Smash Bros. Melee and probably Bloody Roar for the GameCube. I don't know anybody that could probably beat me at those games that I know personally. Now, there's probably people on the internet whoop my ass for all I know. But I've also got a fight stick that I've gotten recently as well within the last year or two. I haven't used it a whole lot. I don't know. I just love fighting games, and I think arcades kind of hid that in me, and then I found it much later in life, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because, like, I played a lot of Mortal Kombat 2 in arcades. Played a lot of Mortal Kombat 3, and I played a lot of I want to say Mortal Kombat Gold. Yeah. Was in arcades.
You played whether or not it was in arcades, I don't know. I just know that you played it.
Yeah, I know we played it at school a lot. Yeah. But maybe I'm thinking of a different one than Gold in arcades besides 2 and 3. Anyway, played those. Played a lot of Soul Calibur games. I eventually got into those on consoles. Jesse's actually the one that gave me Bloody Roar. Mm-hmm. Still have it. I would give my left nut to have that series resurrected. That I love that fucking game. It's so good.
It really is. So if I know we've talked about Bloody Roar before, but it's a fighting game where each character has essentially a persona. And and you can demon trigger between your, like, base form and, like, the persona. And the character design was great. The cutscenes were anime style, and playing it was fun as shit. And it was really fun as shit for me until Chase learned how to play. And then he we would play through the like each character story, unlocking the characters. And there's a character that he's supposed to be a phoenix, but his like form is a little doofy ass penguin.
Well, his yeah, like his actual normal form is the penguin, but
then he can like go into like
go
a
like
phoenix.
super Saiyan.
Yeah, like he's got like a secondary form, and like Chase had this move where he would just surf me all around the stage with that penguin. Like he would just like smash me up against the side of the wall and just run me around the wall, and he would just stun lock me into the fuck box. And that's my memory of the last time I ever fucking played that goddamn game.
Yeah, and the thing about him, what was his name? Was it Genos?
Well,
something like that.
I only remember Shion, and Shion's not the same character.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, the penguin. The thing about his second form, the phoenix, it was so much more powerful, but I think it constantly ate your health.
Yeah,
like that was the drawback of it. Like if you went into that form, like you had to either whoop ass or you were going to get your ass whooped. Like you could say that's the basis of any fighting game, but like in this case, you were fucked if you didn't do good.
Yeah, I wish I was better at fighting games. I adore fighting games.
I've thought several times about doing a fighting game Fridays and just streaming me playing online, but I don't know if I'm ever going to do that because I'm not like I said, I'm not super good at them. I would like to learn though. Like
it'd be almost like a super gets good.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because Gatsby gets good slowly turned into I'm pretty good at this one, or I'm never gonna get good at this one.
Yeah. A quick like indie game, if you guys want to get into a really good indie game fighter, is Skullgirls. Like that game has fantastic mechanics for an indie game, an indie fighting game. It's crazy good, and it often goes on sale for like $2.
Skullgirls has been through a lot of drama, hasn't it? Didn't that shit get like delisted for a long time while they were fighting for the rights to have that game?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what happened with it. I know that they had to go back and censor a bunch of shit. It seems like they had a fight with like their artist or someone, but I don't know that for sure.
That sucks. But yeah, the Skullgirls looks super cool, and let's see. We had talked about Soul Calibur already. Soul Calibur is a ritual that passed over into our IRL hangouts because like we would play Soul Calibur every time we went, and eventually I think somebody was just like, are we really going to play $1 per round for Soul Calibur when we've got it at home? And we'd be like, we're at the arcade, we're going to play Soul Calibur. But like somebody in our friends group has owned every Soul Calibur that's ever been, and we've always played it and made custom characters and just absolutely dick each other into a corner with the guy with the long stick.
Fucking Keelik.
Yeah, I love Keelik, but it took a lot of the wind out of my sails to find out that he's essentially just the noob character, because I used to think that he was my character. Like, I'm good with Keelik. No, everybody's good with Keelik.
Yeah, I mean that is a gut punch when you find out, oh, the character I like and that I'm good at is considered the newbie character. But I mean, shit, even then, fucking, I guess, deal with it. They're in the game, it's like I was talking to Higgy earlier about League of Legends. I fucking hate that game. But I like the characters, and I used to play Teemo just to piss people off because everybody hated Teemo because he was the fucking newbie character, and I loved crushing people with Teemo just to watch them seethe.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is that like I really enjoyed trying to beat people in fighting games with the characters that they thought were like impossible to win with. Like, I didn't play Street Fighter, but I would have more than likely been the guy that tried to win with like Dan or something like that. I know there was a character in I believe Tekken that was just like a piece of shit wooden robot whose moves would like randomize. I always liked trying to play with those.
Oh, what was his name?
I don't remember.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
I remember one of the arcades that I would frequent had a Tekken tag machine that I always wanted to play, but they'd let the screen burn in get so bad that I was just repulsed by it.
Yeah. A lot of those old arcades didn't really give a fuck about anything.
Not at all. Did you? Go ahead.
I was gonna say the owner was honestly probably in the back doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Half the time.
Did you ever play a racing game that tried to like move your hands? Like it was
you mean like they tried to be like a realistic driving wheel,
but it
that
was
would
all
just jerk.
fucked up and it wouldn't let you turn anywhere.
Yeah, it would just jerk around and like break your fucking wrists and shit. Those were garbage.
Yeah. How much pinball do you play?
Not a lot. I don't dislike pinball, but if there's other machines, I'm not gonna play pinball.
Candy's a huge pinball fan. There's a Addams Family pinball game that she loves the shit out of. And I think they're fascinating in a weird way that that kind of encapsulates what I've been talking about arcades in general, is that it's an arcade machine within an arcade machine almost. Like it's a game where every component of the game is a moving part. And I enjoy watching that shit. I enjoy seeing it like fold and unfold like a fucking transformer as I move through the different stages. Artemis in chat asks, Super Euro Japanophile, do you like Pachinko?
I've never had a chance to play Pachinko. I've seen several videos of like Joey the Anime Man, or like I don't know if Chris Broad's ever done a Pachinko. Actually, I know he has. Never mind. But anyway, I've seen several videos of those. They look interesting because it's kind of fascinating to me that Japan was like, okay, gambling is illegal completely. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these balls worth money and you can use that instead.
Well, that's almost exactly like the casinos my mom would go to, because in our state, the wording of the law is that you can't have a casino on state ground. And this may not have been in our state, but wherever it was, you can't have a casino on state ground. So they would build them in floating platforms on the river. And I
know
guess
exactly what it is. That's in Biloxi.
And the government would just be like, yeah, that's clearly fine.
Yeah, like I can remember walking into those places because like my parents would go to them every now and then too. And I can remember distinctly going into those places and walking across. Like some of them would even have it to where you could see the water. Yeah. Like where you left the land and you were clearly on this like boat type thing now. Like, and that was the casino. They were just like, oh, we're not on the land. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. The mom would call it the boats. She'd say we're going to the boats this weekend, and I loved going to the boats because it meant I got to go to Kids Quest. But so you were talking about like that being a weird loophole, and to me, the boat thing is just as goddamn stupid. Like if you are playing with the terminology to that point, why don't you just change the law?
I don't know. Like this isn't quite as comparable, but it'd be almost like, well, rape's not allowed, but if you do it in a tree, we can't do nothing about that. That's rape in a tree.
Squirrels rape all the time. We can't do shit about it.
Yeah, like I'm just so surprised they're like, oh, you can gamble on fucking water. That's fine.
I'm telling you, my butthole did pucker a little bit whenever you went, I think I could get this point across with rape.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit earlier about ticket machines and that whole gatekeeping element of, are they arcades, are they not? I have only ever really enjoyed ticket machines one time in my life, and it was back before they changed the rules, because there was a time when every arcade I went to had legit gambling. And then I think that people figured out that this wasn't cool and they got rid of those machines, but those were the ones I could win on, where like it was essentially like roulettes, or it was like coin pushers or things like that, where you could get coins back, or there was a chance of you winning a shit ton of fucking tickets. And there was a machine that was not luck-based enough. Like, it was just like a timing game where I just had to hit the button right. And I just kept hitting the fucking, like, big money on tickets until, like, I bought a Monopoly. Like, I bought a fucking big-ass Monopoly board game set. And at the time, that was, like, one of the most expensive things there. I've never bought anything like a fucking console. Like, that's what you always see, is that, oh man, I want that goddamn Xbox One up there, that after you've paid to play all the games to win on the tickets, you could have just fucking bought one.
Yeah, I could have bought two, probably.
But yeah, What have been your experiences with ticket games?
Mostly at
Dave and Buster's.
Well, probably more so at the skating rink from my childhood, because like I would use it to get like candy and stuff like that when I was there. Because I mean, my parents would drop me off and I'd just hang out there for like hours. Because I mean, it was a little town. The only place for kids to hang out was there. So they'd drop me off with a certain amount of money, and then I would get tickets and buy candy and shit with tickets. And I'd occasionally get like a stupid toy or something, whatever. And later in life, I moved on to pool in that same skating rink, and I got a lot more lucrative with pool. But that's a story for another time. Yeah, that's all I really ever bought with tickets. Those candy, a couple toys here and there. I never got anything like real big. I've gotten some shot glasses at Dave and Buster's in recent years, but
yeah. I've not played a whole lot. I have some cute stories that aren't specifics because I can't really remember it. Of like, I feel like the last few times I have played ticket machines, I've just given away my tickets. Because if you're just there to have a good time, and by the time you leave, all you can get is a fucking finger puppet. like you might as well just find a kid that's having a good time and give them your tickets, and that's always,
and I agree.
That's always a good time. Shakura says, I went to an arcade with a claw machine, spent a ton of money on it, and stopped doing arcades after I realized I might be predisposed to gambling addictions.
Yeah,
man, claw machines broke my heart. Because once you learn that claw machines are just as rigged as slot machines, it makes it not as fun.
I used to be like, I don't know if some of them just weren't rigged, but like there was some machines in some places that I was just oddly good at. Like I can remember distinctly going to one of Rhett's birthday parties a long time ago. We went to I think we went out to play laser tag, and I remember that place had a claw machine. And my girlfriend at the time really wanted a bear out of there, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and get it, and I won it like no fucking problem. And then like I remember Rhett's girlfriend was just like, hey, you won that, can you get me one too? And I would just be like, yeah, sure. And I tried and I got her one too. And then like pretty soon, like word had got out that I was decent at this game, and there was like 5 more girls lined up just wanting cute bears out of this fucking machine. They'd just give me $1 and be like, get it. And I'd just be like, okay. And I like cleaned that machine out that day. Like there was not a lot left when I was done with it, so like it had to be an unrigged one or something, because like it was easy.
I'm gonna mimic Fair's sentiment here and say Chase fucks. I am just imagining you just like fucking reeling in pussy with these fucking bears.
Hey girl, you want a bear? How about that raccoon?
Oh shit. Likewise, this is kind of a related story. Was Candy wanted me to take her to the fair a while back whenever there was like a fair in town. And it reminds me a little bit whenever I used to live on the beach, like of like shrimp festivals and shit like that, but to a much less toothy degree, because like I had never seen like real life carnies. And like they were like literally just dudes that like traveled with the fair and like were heckling you and harassing you and being like, come on, this is the best game over here, I'll show you exactly how to win it, you gotta do all this. And they're just fast talking you, and they're talking to you like they're helping you cheat the game. I remember this guy was just like I'll show you exactly how to win. What do you want up there? You want that llama? I'll show you exactly how to win that llama the easiest way possible. It'll only take you a couple of minutes. Now, don't tell my dad. He doesn't like me telling people how to do this. I was just like, motherfucker, you are like 50 years old.
Well, you saying that reminds me of, I want to say it was Mark Rober, that guy who does like science experiment type videos on YouTube. Mm-hmm. He's got a shit ton of fucking subscribers. He's got really good content too. But he did like a carny stuff episode one day, and he showed you exactly how to win certain games, and he showed you the ones that were like literally unwinnable. And it was just a really cool video.
Yeah, like essentially in that case, the game wasn't rigged at all. And I think that's how it tricked me. Because in everything I've ever seen, carnival games are rigged. Like, they're rigged in the same way slot machines are and crane machines are, and that, like, you're not going to knock that shit off until they want you to. But this game was not rigged at all. The man was rigged because it was very fucking easy to pop these balloons with these bean bags. It's just he kept being like, all right, you could quit now or you can go higher. And you already told me that you want to win that llama. So, but if he had just told me straight up, you have to play 10 games in a row and you will have paid for like $50 to get this llama, I wouldn't have done it. But instead, he just like, it was just like, all right, you know, that's been 2. You got 2, 4 more. It's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. And instead of just walking away because he was clearly fucking with me, I was just like, Candy has never had somebody win her a prize at a carnival before. I will pay this man $80 if I have to. And we still have that llama. His name's Cheddar.
We still got that llama.
To this day, he's still a llama.
Simping at the carnival, a Jesse story.
Oh, shit. One of you guys may have posted this, speaking of, I saw a screenshot the other day where somebody in the server was commenting on somebody else in the server, but from another server. Like, they shared a server. And they were just like, man, shut the fuck. You're a simp for 3 Southern men and a lesbian. And they were talking about bro up. I may get some clarification on that here. You were calling out fair. Artemis was calling out fair. It made my fucking day.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, you know, I do like ticket machines. I know that they're all fucking rigged, but like, for example, so much of it seems like something you could win at. Like, we played one of these recently, the ones where something is going back and forth left to right really fast and you're trying to line it up with the entry below it to keep going up the tower. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. You talking about the one I played at Dave & Buster's?
Yes, and I've played other games like it.
Yeah.
That is a perfect rig game. Like, it's a perfect rig game because you are so confident in your timing, you don't realize that eventually that thing's going to be moving so fast that the machine can cheat without you seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because all it has to do is just not respond when you hit the button.
Yeah. Oh, whoops, the input got eaten. What? Play again.
Redacted says, God, imagine if arcades nowadays had loot boxes as their prizes and were set to only open after you're home. That's kind of it's kind of one of the things I wanted to segue into, is that like the entire concept of like loot box culture came from arcades. Like, it's all like that instant bite-sized monetization model, right?
Well, let me tell you what's funny about that whole statement right there. Do you remember what Colin was buying?
Oh, I do.
Dave &
Tell them
Buster's?
this story.
Okay, so our friend Colin,
and he's been in a video more predominantly now. He was in the D&D video as the older individual. I think Sayre is the name that I listed. He's also been in a couple other videos in very small bursts.
Yeah, he's been in a couple of our WoW videos and stuff. But Colin is different. we'll say he's unique. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he had won a shitload of tickets, and he went into the prize shop, and he seen what was essentially grab bags for these little Beanie Baby type things that were based on like different fruits, and they smelled like those fruits. Mm-hmm. Like, they actually smell fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And he kept seeing, what was he after? Do you remember? It was like a pink bird or a bear or some shit. I don't remember.
He was after, I think it was a bear.
Yeah. And he was just like, oh, I gotta get that pink bear. And like, he just kept going back out to the arcade, desperately trying to win tickets to come back and spend more on this fucking loot box of a bear that he never got.
I am glad to weigh in right here, because he bought the first one and then he opened it up and it wasn't the bear, and he was like, what is this shit? And he was so disappointed. Then he flipped it over and he looked at like the key for all the different animals, and he was like, ooh, this is an ultra rare. He didn't give a shit until he looked at the list of the possible animals he could get, and he was just like, "Oh man, I gotta get the other ultra rares." He went back. And
it was basically a gotcha game, real life for him.
It was so fucking funny, man. But I kind of like, in a weird way, I also I admire whatever the fuck Colin has going on in that head of his, because like we've had conversations about this before where he's just like, I'm just trolling, right? And I was like, if you are trolling, you are the best troll I've ever met. Because like your comedic timing is really fucking good, and it makes it to the point to where I feel bad because I think I'm laughing at an idiot, like a fucking mentally deficient idiot, when in reality you are just playing it up really well. Do either of you play gacha games? Chase does.
I only play Bleach Brave Souls, and I'm completely free to play in that game. I've never spent a dime in it. I used to play it every fucking day because I have so much downtime at work. I would just sit there and play it on my iPad and just, in 15 minutes I could knock it out and be done. But here lately I've kind of slacked off on it pretty bad because I played it for like 3 years. I'm just kind of done with it, but I'll occasionally still log on to it. Most gacha games suck ass for me though. Like I just can't get into them, or they're like too grindy, or they're like obviously super rigged. Whereas Bleach Brave Souls is super easy to play for free.
Candy plays one that I've forgotten the name of, but it was heavily advertised on Reddit, and the ads are like really cheesy to the point that I didn't think anybody would buy it. And she was watching one day, and it was this long drawn out cutscene of clearly not gameplay, and I was like, baby, that none of that's in the game, right? And she was like, shut the fuck up. and now she's playing it. It's like a zombie base builder, and she hasn't put any money into it either, and she thoroughly enjoys it. And I was like, well, kick ass, I've put money into phone games, not a lot though. Okay, Shakuris brought up Arc Knights. I tried Arc Knights, and the opening cutscene was so long, and so I'm pretty sure people looking over my shoulder think I'm watching hentai.
That's the tower defense like one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I didn't. Yeah, I've got
Arc Knights as well.
Yeah, I just uninstalled it.
Yeah, here's my thing about any gacha game, including that Bleach game. Cutscenes don't exist to me. I skip fucking everything. I'm just like, this is a phone game. I'm playing it because I'm bored. I don't give a flying fuck what this story could possibly be about. I want to buy waifus and have them kill shit.
Yep. Well, that's something, is that I've thought a lot lately that I am not opposed to playing phone games that you pay for up front, because a lot of times those are just ports of like good games. And I've been trying to find more games that like I am willing to try for like $5 to $10, but all I can really find are games that are, like I said, either ports or like of games that I don't really want, or they'll be really super uber popular phone games that I've already tried and quit. Like I've spent some money on Pokemon Go just so that I could play it more often, more easily. But that game was outpaced by its expectations from day one and never caught up.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever seen such a and don't get me wrong, they still made motherfucking bank off that game. It is by no means a like commercial failure. Like that game rakes in cash like crazy. However, I think it could be. I've never seen such wasted potential in a game where they could make so much more money if it was just better.
I know we talked about this in old podcasts of how I wish that genre had taken off. Like I would like to see more games like it, like more competition for it, essentially, so that we could actually breed some variety of features. But I'm not opposed to it, and this is actually where this ties back into arcade culture, is that there have been a lot of times when people have been really upset by loot boxes and DLC, and I haven't been quite as upset because like this model of making people punch in more quarters to get more content is not new. The problem arises whenever you are being milked from multiple directions, I guess. Like, if I've already paid $60 for a game, obviously I don't want to put more quarters into it, etc., etc. Which is why I think that the new model that a lot of arcades are moving to is really interesting. Like, at Dave & Buster's, you pay for a certain amount of credits up front, but like at the arcade that I was talking about, where we used to live, that was like the retro game store, you paid for time, and you could play the games as much as you wanted during that amount of time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I think that's an excellent model.
I do too.
Because then, like, when you're in an arcade, it's kind of like kid in a candy store of like, there's so much shit to do, but you don't want to waste your tokens on things you're not sure if you're gonna like. But in one of these time-based ones, you fucking try everything. Fuck it. Like, I'm gonna play fucking Hoop Jams.
Hell yeah. Speaking of hoop jams, just real quick, one of my funniest arcade moments that I can recall is our friend John. We've talked about him before. He's never been in a video. He probably never will be.
He moved off to the
anymore.
Military pretty soon out of high school, so he's not had a chance to be in anything really.
Yeah, but anyway, I remember going to an arcade one time with him, and there was this little kid sitting there playing. What's it called? NFL Blitz. Sorry, I had a brain fart. But there's this little kid sitting there playing NFL Blitz, which is the crazy one where you can like just beat the shit out of players and stuff. Like it's the wacky and crazy football game. Little kid's just sitting there playing it, and normal etiquette for an arcade is to let a kid play the game, finish, and then you come up and maybe play afterwards. Not John. John walks straight up to that motherfucking machine, puts his 50 cents in, hits start in the middle of that kid's game, and beat his ass at NFL Blitz. And it was so fucking funny because this kid's like 8. I don't know, and we were like 18 at the time.
Hell yes, dude.
Oh, I got another one actually. And it's also NFL Blitz. I wish Ian were in here because it involves him. But we were playing NFL Blitz at an arcade that was closing, and the manager come up behind us when we first started the game. He was like, "Hey, I'm about to start closing up. You got to hurry up." And we were just like, "All right, we're just gonna play this game real quick." And we kept tying up so much that it was going into like overtime and shit. And like he had already closed the arcade, and we were just like, "Sorry, man, we'll go if you want us to." And he's like, "No, I'm invested in this now." And, like he closed the arcade and just stood behind us and watched until I eventually won.
Badass. I love
it. That was a really fun time.
That's really funny. So yeah, like I don't know. There's just a lot to love there. Like, especially like right now when so many of us are still affected by quarantine or otherwise impacted social lives. There's just something about a physical location. Like the movie gallery that I used to work got put out of business by things like Netflix, but many of us still wanted an opportunity to physically visit and talk about movies, wanted to get together and watch movies. And I think that's so much of what I enjoy about an arcade is that I can play video games at home, but I love going to these places that just sort of showcase the culture and socializing with other people. And so that's what I kind of imagine Bro Up to be, and why we kind of dig up those memories so frequently whenever we're talking about the culture of the community and things like that. So we've made a lot of jokes about like the lore of the channel and things like that. And I have played around with that a lot. We've talked about that in the Discord from time to time as rotating topics. It's obviously always just for fun, but in a way, the channel kind of exists in my imagination as this arcade. And I've only drawn the outside of it once. Do you remember where the outside of it was featured in a video, Chase?
Vaguely.
So the channel
like it was
ad,
the parking lot type thing.
Yeah, the channel ad features the outside. But
yeah,
since then we've done so much talking about it. I don't know if the arcade has an outside.
Yeah, like here's the way I imagine getting there, because you don't leave. Everybody knows you don't leave.
Yeah.
But I just imagine one of those like synthwave videos where like it's just a car driving down a highway with like neon lights.
You're about to make me redo this intro because this is about to sound cool. I know it.
Yeah, I thought I had done or told you about this before. Let me just find the GIF that I always look at when I think about this. Let me see. Whoops. Which one are you? Oh, here it is. Well, shit, this isn't the GIF version of it, but I'm gonna post the picture. Oh no, this is the video of it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna post this whole damn link. It's a fucking Shutterstock link.
That's fine.
But this is the one I usually think about when I'm just like, this is how you get to the arcade, because it's like, this makes it look like it's in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And it's just playing like the doom.
Yeah.
Like he's just on the way. Like, I don't know. I just always, that's what makes me think of how you get to the fucking arcade every time.
If you can survive being chased by the sandworm in Beetlejuice long enough, you will eventually get to a road. And if you follow that road long enough, if you hop on the desert bus and you actually get to the end, then that's where the arcade is.
The whole time you're being chased by like another giant like sandworm from Dune. Like the road's disappearing behind you.
One thing that like I have suggested multiple times that I still canonically to me is that the arcade is one of those places they just kept tacking functions onto this building. So it's like Dave's barbecue and foot massage. Like it's just, I saved a picture once where it was like all this mall ninja shit, and it was like Pogs, guns, magic cards, sex toys, or something like that.
That's what's in our ticket shop.
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
When you fall asleep in the desert bus, you wake up inside the arcade. Yes.
There are many ways in.
But there are
Only
no
one
ways
way
out.
Only one way out, and no one knows it yet.
Yeah. Something else that I'm still looking forward to doing, because we both agree it's a good idea, I just haven't sat down and done it, is I want to make a game for subbing called Sub or Die. And I want to make like an old school, like arcade distorted voice that's just like, sub or die. And it just does a roulette, and it pops up with the name of somebody that's watching. And if they're subbed, they get to live. And if they're not subbed, we kill them. And they can stay and watch. It doesn't hurt anything. Like, ghosts are allowed in the arcade, but we're going to kill you somehow.
Ghosts are allowed.
Yeah.
That seems like that might start a religion, and I feel like Fair would be the leader.
Yeah.
Because he gives out so many gift subs that he's the savior.
Yeah. No one's dying on my watch. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he beat me to it.
Well, I like this thing that's been happening lately where it actually really boosts my morale, because Chase and I both have had this problem where if we're enjoying a game but like nobody's showing up anymore, it's just like, God, what's the point? Like there's only like 4 or 5 people watching when we used to have like 45. And then every now and then somebody will be like, boom, 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 there. Now everyone who's watching is subbed. And I'll be like, yeah. Well, goddamn, you just made it worth for me. Like,
yeah. The only time I really get discouraged anymore, and even then, it's not really, you guys' fault. Like, I understand that sometimes you just put us on for background noise, and we've straight up asked you to do that. Like, and that's fine. But like, sometimes when chat just gets to where it's dead, I'm just like, is anyone actually here, or am I just playing to myself?
That's part of why. If we ever get completely burnt out on the solo streams, we have got to just switch to like group commentary, like, because I do think that those would be fun for both us and them. Like if we switch to where like one of us is playing a single player game and the other one's just watching and in the call, we would still be tickled shitless. Like we'd be having a great time. Yeah.
It's just, I run out of things to talk to myself about.
Yeah.
And like even then I feel like an idiot, like commentating on the game I'm playing that I know you're either watching or hearing. Well, but like I just can't stand the silence,
Likewise, I've always been a very emotionally transparent person because, I never really learned how to repress my feelings. And so if I get really discouraged and talk about it too transparently on stream, it makes people like, damn, man, this is sad. And I'm just like, well, I didn't mean for you to get sad. I just wanted you to know that I'm sad.
Yes, yeah, you're killing the vibe.
Well, like that's how that one Monster Hunter stream was. Yeah. Because I wasn't even heartbroken. Like, I was just like, this is annoying. I'll be back next week. But instead, I went so ham on describing how hurt I was. People were like, yeah, I don't want to fucking watch this shit anymore. You're gay. They didn't say that, but still. Like, so I get it, I guess. Jesse, you are gay. I was talking to Candy about this the other day, and I was just like, I know you're not going to agree with me, but hear me out. Why shouldn't I be able to identify as queer? And she was like, because you're not queer. And I was just like, I've been called queer. And she was like, that doesn't count. And I was just like, I have been treated disenfranchised for being queer for most of my life. And she was like, but you're not queer. And I was like, but I've had that experience. And she's like, I am done talking to you about this.
You could almost argue it back to her, just be like, all right, straight married woman. Like, you not gay either.
And that's a real thing. Like, that's actually an experience they have. I shared a meme with her the other day that was like, you are lesbian enough. And she was like, thank you. Just like with a tear in her eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how our conversations just bounce around now, and neither of us are just like, we are obligated to keep this on task. Because in a weird way, everything is connected.
Just like the arcade.
Artemis says, am I lesbian enough? I will tell you this right now. We may not always agree, but I want you to know, here and now, I don't get to tell you if you're enough or not. You're always going to be enough.
Listen to him being all profound.
Like, you absolutely fucking lesbian enough. Like, there have been so many times when we talk about like what eventually we might call like the fans, where I've just been like, I kind of don't want it to be unnecessarily gendered because I want it to be like inclusive, but at the same time, it's 2020. You can be a bro if you want to. Like, you can if we call our fucking fans boys, like, you know, you can be a boy if you're a girl. I don't care. Like, if I'm an amputee, am I 3/4 a lesbian? I think my brain had a problem with that. I don't know what you're even saying there.
This is gonna sound weird. I can't ever see the word lesbian without thinking of Scott Pilgrim, just because of him being like, I'm in lesbians with you.
Yeah. Well, what's funny too, I think that being with Laz has helped me catch more of that inside joke, because he's like, the L word, and he's like, lesbian? And there was an iconic gay show called The L Word that was about lesbians. And it was really bad. Like, that's actually something that got brought up here recently, because they rebooted the show. And the only thing they did right on that show was lesbians. But, like, everything else on, like, the gay, like, identity, they just wrote horribly. Like, the one trans character they had on there started taking hormones and beat up her girlfriend. It's just like, what the fuck?
As you do, I guess.
As one does.
Well, while we're on the podcast of arcades, this is something I've had knocking around in my head for a while that I've wanted to do. And now that my shop in my backyard's basically done, I just got to get all my tools and saws and shit like that out there. I've wanted to build an actual arcade cabinet for a really, really long time. And I really want to build a bro-up arcade cabinet. Mm-hmm. And my dad's always been huge into woodworking. Like, I've probably told this story before, but when I was a kid, like, all of our like Christmas ornaments that we put in the yard at Christmas time were all handmade by my dad. And he made me like a shitload of Pokemon and like all sorts of stuff we had out in the yard. And like, I was going to get him to help me cut out the cabinets and make one and just have an arcade machine in my house and like run it with a Raspberry Pi. And like, I had even thought about, like, because once I get one going, then like I can have an entire setup for the Raspberry Pi, and that part won't take long anymore. And I had honestly thought about trying to sell them, like, to our fans, like if they wanted a fucking, like, because I could make them smaller, like a small, like the one that would sit on a bar or something.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I have no idea how much that would cost. I have no clue how I would ship some heavy ass shit like that overseas if somebody
Well, yeah, I was
wanted
about
one.
to say the overseas is a huge piece of it. I recently had to resend some Patreon rewards, and because they had gotten too big to be sent normally, I had to fill out customs reports, and like my real name had to go on that shit because that was like, the only way to send it out. I had to confirm it was not a bomb. So there's a lot of shit going on to that.
Yeah, well, like Shakura said, if it was big enough, it would almost have to come as like an IKEA type thing where you'd have to put it together. But like what I've got in mind would be technically smaller than that. I think I could ship it all in one go. But like that's way the fuck off. Like, so don't get your hopes up for that shit ever. But like if I ever get around to that, I will most definitely show you mine, because there's so many different arcade things out there, like MAME cabinets, that you can customize heavily to where like it could boot up and have an actual bro up like splash screen. Like it would be so fucking cool to have a bro up arcade machine in my house.
Well, likewise, I'm glad you brought up this whole like assembly situation. I hate to have to say it, but I am glad that I have an opportunity to. I got really excited for these Walmart arcade machines, and I wish I hadn't. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they're actually terrible.
They're fucking terrible. So they're being sold in Walmart right now. They are these, like, I'd say they're like $200, $300, something like that.
Yeah, I think they're like $150 or $200.
Yeah. And they're they rolled out like last Christmas or something like that, and they're arcade machines that are too small. They're like not the right size, and you can get these risers for them, but they don't make them wider, so they're just a taller bullshit arcade machine. And the worst part about it is not that, because they look decent for an imitation arcade machine that's like not that expensive by comparison. The problem I have with it is that the screen is just a goddamn tablet, like, that comes loaded with an emulator in one game. So like the splash screen for it booting up is like this overly synthesized, clearly modern thing that ruins the entire illusion. It's not an arcade machine if it doesn't have like fucking scan lines.
Yeah, I want to make a fucking MAME cabinet so bad, and I've got a friend that does them. I just haven't talked to him in a really long time, but we'll occasionally catch up. If he ever sees me playing like Path of Exile or Diablo or something, he'll shoot me a message and be like, "Hey man, how you been?" You know. But
your friend Rob Denblecker?
Yeah, that's him.
When are you gonna start talking to Rob Denblecker?
When he makes a new Joe Zombie. Has anyone in chat seen Joe Zombie?
Next podcast.
Without looking it up. Have you seen Joe Zombie?
I love how Shaq doesn't know what it is, and he's still just like, no.
No, you fucking boomer. Who watches Joe Zombie? It's an old fucking like Newgrounds Flash cartoon that Rob Denblacker made. The guy who makes, what is it, Cyanide and Happiness?
Yeah. Yeah, because whenever he retired Stick Suicide, which was a Flash cartoon archive, essentially, he switched over to making webcomics.
Yeah, and I've actually talked to him on MSN Messenger before. I somehow got his contact information and added him and was like, hey man, when's the next Joe Zombie coming out? And he's like, I don't know, I'm working on it. It's like, that was so long ago.
Yep. Chase, I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it'd be hard to get into now because like Joe Zombie looks like shit, but like, you know, in the dial-up days, that was the shit. Like it was badass back then.
Chase, I don't know if you've seen it because I don't know if you have any real reason to go back and like watch our podcast videos, but one of these that you've been running the show on, that we came to the conclusion, I was like, all right, how do you want to end this? And you were like, I don't know. That's where I cut it. So I don't know how you want to end it this time, but I figured I'd let you know.
Just end it with a Mega Man death noise. I don't know if you can put that on Spotify. We'll find out.
I mean, in fairness, I put the Tabular Librum episode on Spotify, and it is filled with licensed music, so...
Oh, well, fuck them, dude. What are they gonna do, kill us?